It starts with a single swipe, harmless, almost innocent. You tell yourself it's just 5 minutes, a quick check before bed. But those 5 minutes stretch, twist and dissolve into hours you'll never get back. The feed scrolls endlessly, and so do you, lost somewhere between distraction and dependency. You don't even notice when the line blurs, when the choice to check becomes a reflex, when silence starts to feel like withdrawal. Somewhere inside, a voice whispers, "Just one more video." You listen, and another hour disappears. The world fades behind the glow. You feel connected, informed, entertained, distracted, but never quite satisfied. The more you scroll, the more hollow the satisfaction becomes, yet the harder it is to stop. Every flick of your thumb promises a hit of something better, something that never arrives. It's not boredom you're escaping, it's the discomfort of stillness. Stillness feels like falling behind, like missing out, like being alone with your thoughts, and so you scroll to silence them. What you don't see is the invisible loop tightening around your mind. A loop built not by chance, but by design. Every swipe rewards your brain like a slot machine. You don't pull a lever, you drag a finger. You don't hear coins drop, you feel dopamine surge. The algorithm doesn't just guess what you like, it teaches you what to crave. We want them to stay, the designers say behind the glass screens of innovation. And you do. Hours turn into habits, habits into reflexes, reflexes into quiet addiction. The phone stops being a tool and becomes a tether, one you mistake for comfort. But comfort has a cost. Each scroll is a trade. Time for stimulation, focus for distraction, presence for noise. And yet, even knowing this, you keep going. Because the scroll promises connection. The illusion feels real enough to believe in. You laugh at memes with strangers, cry with influencers, argue with ghosts. You've never been more connected, or more alone. Notifications replace conversations. Hearts replace words. You wait for replies that never come, measure worth in likes that fade overnight. You feel seen by pixels, but unseen by people. The silence between messages grows louder. You start to wonder, maybe I'm just boring. But you're not boring. You're disconnected in a world that pretends to be together. Once, your attention was your own. You could finish a thought, a book, a conversation. Now it splinters. Every ping, every flash, every scroll slices your focus thinner. You try to remember what it was like to be patient, to sit in quiet without needing stimulation. But your brain fidgets now. It reaches for distraction before you even notice the urge. You can't finish a thought anymore, and that's not your fault. It's by design. Attention is the new currency, and you've been spending yours without realizing it. Your mind feels crowded, tabs open, thoughts half-formed, dopamine drained. You live in fragments, scrolling between unfinished moments, and slowly, something deeper begins to fade. Your sense of self. The screen knows what you'll watch before you do. It recommends who to follow, what to want, what to fear. You used to define yourself by your choices. Now your choices are defined for you. The algorithm becomes a mirror, showing not who you are, but who it profits for you to be. You whisper to yourself, "Who am I when no one's watching?" But the truth is, someone's always watching. Every click, every pause, every heartbeat of hesitation feeds back into the machine that builds your digital reflection. Somewhere along the line, you stopped being the user and became the used. Yet even in the middle of this noise, there's a quiet chance. A small opening to break the loop. Freedom doesn't start with quitting. It starts with noticing. The moment you see the pattern, you interrupt it. The moment you put the phone down, just for a minute, You remember what peace feels like. It's not dramatic. It's not revolutionary. It's a single decision to reclaim your attention. You breathe. You look around. The silence feels heavy at first, then calming. You realize it's been years since you felt truly still. Then something shifts. The world, once muted by glass, starts to return in color. The light feels strange at first, unfamiliar, too raw, too real. You blink and see what you've been missing. Time, presence, life. You rediscover boredom, and with it, imagination. You find yourself drawn to small things again. The way sunlight moves, the sound of real laughter, the feeling of being where you actually are. You're not escaping anymore. You're returning. Maybe that's the truth nobody tells you. The scroll doesn't end when you put down your phone. It ends when you wake up inside your own life again. Because every swipe was never just stealing time. It was stealing meaning. But the moment you stop, even briefly, you take it all back. So pause. Let the silence feel strange. Let it scare you a little. That's how you'll know you're alive again. If this story felt too real, maybe it's time to stop scrolling and start living. Think colder, move clearer, subscribe for more reality. Every swipe rewards your brain like a slot machine. The motion is so small, so innocent, that you barely feel it. But deep beneath the surface of that gesture, the flick of a thumb, the pause on a reel, the flash of something new, your brain lights up like Vegas at midnight. A hit of dopamine, a pulse of pleasure, a spark of maybe this time. It's the same loop that keeps gamblers pulling levers in casinos, hoping the next spin will deliver something better, brighter, more satisfying. But this time, the machine isn't in a neon room with no windows. It's in your hand. Somewhere in a dimly lit office, a group of designers stare at glowing screens. Their walls are covered in engagement graphs and retention curves. Every dip means lost attention. Every spike means success. One leans forward and says, "We need to keep them scrolling." Another replies, "Add micro interactions. Let the likes flutter. Give them a spark." A pause. Then someone smiles. It's working. You are the subject of their science, not a user, but a variable. Your focus is the product, your attention the currency. The app learns you faster than you learn yourself. It studies your pauses, your replays, your hesitations. It knows what triggers you, what excites you, what makes you stay a little longer. Behind every post, every For You page, there's an invisible dealer stacking the deck. You think you're choosing, but the choices have already been chosen for you. The design is deliberate. Infinite Scroll was not an accident. It was innovation, engineered to remove friction. No end, no closure, no reason to stop. Like a gambler hypnotized by motion, your brain craves the uncertainty. The next clip, the next face, the next emotion. The randomness is what hooks you. Dopamine doesn't spike when you win. It spikes when you might win. That's the trick. The app doesn't feed your curiosity. It feeds your anticipation. You never know what comes next, and that's exactly why you can't stop. It's easy to think, "I'm just relaxing. I can quit any time." But try putting it down mid-scroll. You feel a twitch, a small panic, like cutting oxygen mid-breath. That's not boredom, that's withdrawal. Your brain has been trained to crave stimulation. Silence now feels like punishment. Stillness feels wrong. The chemical high has rewired what you define as peace. And somewhere, deep in the system, that data becomes profit. Every second you stay is another cent, another metric, another reason to keep you hooked. The designer watches the numbers rise. "They're engaging longer," he says. "It's working." But what's working is not creativity. It's conditioning. You've been gamified. The dopamine loop doesn't care what you watch, only that you keep watching. Outrage, beauty, tragedy, it all hits the same circuit. The algorithm doesn't have morals. It only has metrics. If sadness keeps you scrolling, it will feed you sadness. If anger fuels attention, it will drip anger. It doesn't want you happy. It wants you hooked. Somewhere across the world, a young man scrolls under his blanket, eyes wide, brain glowing. A woman in a cafe checks her phone every 2 minutes. A student supposed to be studying taps refresh again and again. Their bodies are still, but their minds sprint endlessly on invisible treadmills. They laugh, cry, rage, then repeat, never realizing they're caught in the same loop. The screen glows softly, like a silent promise. You feel comforted, even cared for. But if you could step outside and see yourself from afar, you'd look like a figure chained to a glowing cube, smiling at your own reflection. The algorithm hums, almost alive. It whispers just one more, you obey. It rewards you. A clip that makes you laugh, a post that hits too close, a face that makes you feel seen. You call it connection, but it's control. Every tap reinforces the loop. Every like sharpens the hook. The dopamine surge fades quickly, so you chase it again and again until your brain no longer remembers what satisfaction without stimulation feels like. Then comes the moment. The quiet, uncomfortable realization. You're not using the app. It's using you. You're not winning the game. You're keeping it alive. You were never the player. You were the data. The designer leans back in his chair, watching engagement climb. He doesn't see you, but his system does. Your fatigue, your clicks, your midnight sessions, all captured, measured, optimized. You gave it time. It gave you dopamine. Fair trade, right? But dopamine doesn't last, and that's the point. It keeps you hungry. It keeps you searching for satisfaction in a system designed to never give it. The more you chase, the less you find. That's the hidden architecture of addiction. Pleasure built on emptiness. The screen flickers once more. You look at it, not out of joy, but habit. The glow feels familiar. The loop begins again. And somewhere behind the code, the designer smiles quietly. The machine is still running. You think you're free because you can scroll. But real freedom isn't in the motion of your thumb. It's in the stillness you've forgotten. And until you reclaim it, you'll keep spinning the reel, chasing the next dopamine hit, never realizing the jackpot was your attention all along. You've never been more connected or more alone. Your phone buzzes with notifications, names flashing like fireflies in the dark. 100 faces, 1,000 voices, all within reach. You scroll through them the way someone flips through old photographs, searching for warmth that never quite comes. Every post, every heart, every comment feels like a small spark of belonging. And yet when the screen goes dark, the silence feels heavier than ever. Online, connection has been redefined. It's no longer built from shared laughter or eye contact, but from pixels and pings. Validation has replaced intimacy. A like has replaced a hug. A seen message has replaced a conversation. The modern heart has learned to beat in rhythms of digital approval. Every double tap whispers, you exist. Every lack of response screams, you don't. Somewhere between those signals, something human got lost. He sits on his bed at midnight, staring at the glowing screen. Messages flood in, memes, replies, emojis. A flood of interaction that feels like noise rather than comfort. He types, "Hey, you up?" then deletes it before sending. He scrolls instead. A girl he once loved posts a story. laughter with friends, city lights, perfection filtered through pixels. He watches it twice, not because he misses her, but because he misses being missed. The screen reflects his face, lit by light, empty of life. Why didn't they reply? He wonders. Then softer, maybe I'm just boring. The thought dissolves into the feed, drowned by more posts, more distractions. This is the paradox of the modern world. Surrounded by people, starved for connection. We mistake visibility for intimacy, engagement for empathy. The internet gave us infinite reach, but stole our roots. We can touch everyone, yet feel no one. There's something cruel about the illusion. The way it mimics real connection so well you forget it's hollow. A comment saying proud of you from a stranger feels as warm as hearing it in person. Until it doesn't. You scroll back, hoping for more, chasing the fleeting warmth of words that vanish in seconds. You post something vulnerable, a piece of yourself. It gets likes, hundreds maybe. But as soon as the dopamine fades, so does the meaning. Validation isn't love, it's sugar. Sweet, addictive, and gone before you can taste it. The crowd applauds online, but no one shows up in person. You hit milestones, job, relationship, loss, and the world reacts instantly. Yet the moment you log off, the echo stops. You realize the connection wasn't mutual. It was transactional. Everyone's performing, and you're part of the play. Your sadness becomes content. Your thoughts become data. Even your vulnerability is monetized. The human brain hasn't evolved fast enough for this kind of connection. Once, friendship required effort. Showing up, listening, staying through discomfort. Now it's reduced to gestures. A heart emoji, a thumbs up, a 2-second story view. The gestures trick your mind into thinking you belong. But belonging requires presence. And presence can't be digitized. He scrolls through his messages. Unread threads, half replies, people he once felt close to. The conversations all blur together. How are you? We should catch up soon. Let's hang out sometime. None of them ever happened. The feed promises connection, but delivers emptiness. He tries again, types something vulnerable into the void. I feel like I'm disappearing. No response, just typing dots that vanish, replaced by silence. That's the moment it hits him. The illusion breaks. The realization that he's been surrounded by people who aren't really there. His followers know his updates, but not his heartbeat. They react to his moments, but never share them. Connection has become performance, and he's exhausted from acting okay. He turns off his phone. For a moment, the quiet feels unbearable, like stepping into cold air after living in noise. But beneath that silence, something deeper stirs. A raw truth. He's not lonely because no one cares. He's lonely because he's forgotten what real care feels like. He looks around the room. A laptop, headphones, and untouched coffee. Notifications still blink on the screen like desperate signals. Hundreds of unread messages, thousands of digital footprints, yet not one voice calling his name. The glow fades from his face as the reality sinks in. He's visible, but unseen. Connected, but untouched. Surrounded, but utterly alone. And somewhere beyond that screen, millions feel the same. Scrolling endlessly, searching for warmth in pixels that can't hold them. We are all shouting across a digital canyon, hearing our own echoes bounce back. The loneliest generation in history. One click away from everyone, and light years away from ourselves. The phone buzzes again. He looks at it, then sets it aside. For the first time, he lets the silence stay. It hurts, but it's real. The noise will always return. The illusion will call again. But now he knows what it costs. Because connection without presence isn't love. It's loneliness disguised as community. And the first step to finding real connection is daring to disconnect. You can't finish a thought anymore, and that's by design. Somewhere along the way, your mind stopped belonging to you. You sit down to focus, but the moment you try, a notification blinks, a thought drifts, a curiosity hijacks your attention. Your brain, once a clear sky, now feels like static. Restless, fragmented, always reaching for the next flicker of stimulation. It's not your fault. It's how the system was built. Attention used to be a gift. Now it's a commodity, bought and sold in the invisible markets of your mind. There was a time when patience was normal, when silence didn't scare you. You could sit under a tree, read a book, stare at the clouds, and not feel the urge to check something. That world feels ancient now, not because of time, but because of pace. Remember when we used to read? Someone once said, "Now I can't even sit still." The laughter that followed wasn't joy. It was resignation. The truth is, your brain has been rewired, not metaphorically, literally. Every scroll, every ping, every short burst of novelty delivers a small hit of dopamine. The brain's way of saying, "Good job, keep going." But the more you chase that feeling, the less you can tolerate stillness. The chemical loop becomes endless. You open your phone for one reason, and 20 minutes later, you've forgotten why you came. Your mind leaps from clip to clip, story to story, reward to reward, but never rests long enough to think. And when you finally look up, there's this strange emptiness, a mental fatigue that feels heavier than physical exhaustion. We used to measure intelligence by how deeply someone could think. Now it's measured by how quickly someone can react. The age of focus has become the era of fragments. You can't finish an article, can't watch a movie without checking your phone, can't sit in silence without the weight of your own thoughts feeling unbearable. Somewhere between convenience and chaos, we traded depth for stimulation. The cruel part is that this isn't accidental. The apps you use were built to fracture you. Every design choice, the infinite scroll, the red notification badge, the autoplay, was engineered to keep your mind restless. "We want them to stay," a designer once said. And they did. You stayed longer, clicked more, thought less. The algorithm doesn't care about your peace. It only cares about your presence. Your attention became a resource, mined, measured, and monetized. Think about it. You don't pay for most of the platforms you use. That's because you are the product. Your focus, your curiosity, your boredom, all harvested, packaged, and sold to advertisers who compete for your consciousness. Every second you spend scrolling is a transaction you never agreed to. Attention is the new oil, and your mind is the well. But wells dry up, and so do minds. You start noticing it in small ways. Conversations feel harder to follow. Books take weeks to finish. You forget mid-sentence what you were trying to say. You open multiple tabs and can't remember why. The world feels faster, but you feel slower. Like running on a treadmill that never stops. The anxiety builds silently. It's not that you're incapable of focus. It's that your environment rewards distraction. And every time you try to reclaim your attention, another vibration, another sound, another small spark steals it away. Imagine your mind as a desk. Once it was clear. A single task, a single thought. Now it's buried under piles of open tabs, half-read articles, reminders, and noise. You try to clean it, but the clutter keeps returning, multiplying faster than you can think. Notifications fall like raindrops, each one tiny, harmless, but together a storm. You drown in them quietly, smiling while you sink, convinced this is just how life is now. But deep down, you remember what peace used to feel like. That feeling of being fully present, reading without distraction, creating without comparison, breathing without urgency. The stillness that once felt normal now feels foreign, almost uncomfortable. You crave it, but fear it too, because silence forces reflection, and reflection uncovers truths that distraction helps you avoid. About yourself, your choices, your life. That's the turning point. The realization that your focus isn't lost, it's being stolen. That the fatigue you feel isn't laziness. It's the natural response of a brain under constant siege. The moment you understand this, something shifts. You stop blaming yourself for not being able to focus, and you start questioning why you're being made to feel that way. The guilt fades, replaced by clarity. Your mind isn't broken. It's overloaded. In that awareness, a kind of quiet rebellion begins. You close the extra tabs, you mute the notifications, you put the phone face down, just for a few minutes. The silence feels strange at first, like stepping out of a crowded room. But then something happens, your thoughts return. Slowly, hesitantly, like guests who left long ago. You start finishing sentences again. You start finishing ideas. The mind that was drowning begins to breathe. The chaos doesn't vanish overnight, but you learn to see it for what it is, noise. You don't have to escape the world to reclaim your focus. You just have to stop renting your attention to it. And in that stillness, however brief, you rediscover something you thought was gone. The ability to think deeply, feel fully, and live intentionally. The next time your hand reaches for your phone out of habit, pause. Ask yourself, who benefits from this distraction? Because focus, once eroded, can be rebuilt. But first, you have to realize it was stolen in the first place. When your screen knows you better than you know yourself, the world becomes a hall of mirrors. You open an app and before you even think, it already knows what you want. The next video, the next post, the next idea. All waiting, perfectly designed for you. But somewhere in that perfection, something feels wrong. You're no longer choosing what to see. You're being seen, measured, predicted, fed back to yourself in the form of endless reflection. The algorithm watches everything. What you pause on, what you skip, what makes you stop just long enough to hesitate. Each moment becomes a data point, a breadcrumb leading deeper into a version of you it thinks you are. You start to notice the pattern, the same kind of faces, the same tone of voices, the same emotions recycled endlessly. It feels comforting, familiar, until it doesn't, because soon that reflection becomes the only version of you that exists. Who am I when no one's watching? A whisper echoes in the back of your mind. But someone is always watching. And worse, they're defining you through what you click, what you crave, what you consume. The person behind the glass, your digital self, grows more distinct, more confident, while you fade quietly behind it. You scroll, you react, you engage, and the algorithm learns. Each touch, each linger, each glance, it refines you like clay molded by invisible hands. You think you're shaping your feed, but it's shaping you. It starts subtly. You notice you're dressing differently, thinking differently, talking like the people you see online. Your humor changes. Your values shift. You repeat opinions you didn't form. Feel outrage for things you never knew existed. You've become a collage of borrowed thoughts, pieced together by an algorithm that only wants one thing: your attention. It feeds you fragments of identity until you forget where you end and it begins. The more you engage, the less authentic you feel. You find yourself performing, curating, presenting, optimizing your own personality for engagement. What began as self-expression becomes self-surveillance. Every choice feels influenced by an invisible audience. Even your silence is calculated. You start to live not as who you are, but as who the algorithm believes you should be. It's easier that way, less friction, more validation. But validation without authenticity is just noise disguised as love. Sometimes late at night, you stare at your reflection on the black screen, the faint glow of pixels outlining your face. For a moment, you wonder if that version of you, the digital one, is the real one now. The one who gets the likes, the one who fits the narrative, the one who never hesitates, never doubts, never disconnects. The real you feels slower, quieter, too complicated for the feed. The mirror self, on the other hand, is perfect, predictable, clean, marketable. The turning point comes when you realize how deep the illusion runs. You start to see patterns that aren't yours, opinions that feel foreign, tastes that don't align with who you once were. You remember things you used to love before the algorithm told you what to like, the music you discovered on your own, the books you read because they spoke to you, not because they trended. That old version of yourself feels distant now, like a photograph of someone you used to be. The mirror flickers. For a split second, you see both versions, the one who creates and the one who's been created. The algorithmic self smiles perfectly, its eyes empty but familiar. You look closer, and the reflection mimics your hesitation, your discomfort. Then it smiles again, broader, brighter, artificial. You reach out to touch the screen, but your hand meets only glass. Cold, unyielding, yet somehow intimate. You pull back, feeling that quiet dread, the sense that the reflection has started watching you. That's the climax. The moment you realize you've become the content. Every emotion, every choice, every second of your digital life feeds a system that knows how to keep you from asking questions. You are the product and the participant, the creator and the created. The line between identity and algorithm blurs until there's no distinction. And yet, in that eerie awareness, something stirs. A small human defiance. You close your eyes. The noise fades. For the first time in a long while, you sit with yourself. No feed, no feedback, no reflection. Just breath, silence, and uncertainty. It feels uncomfortable at first, but also real. You start to remember your own thoughts. The ones not influenced, not optimized, not designed to perform. You remember curiosity without agenda, stillness without judgment. When you open your eyes again, the mirror is just a mirror. The reflection doesn't move on its own. It waits quietly for you to decide who you are. Maybe that's the real test. To exist without validation, to think without influence, to reclaim the parts of yourself that can't be quantified or recommended. The screen still glows softly in the dark, but this time you don't reach for it, because you've finally seen what it was hiding all along. Not who you could become, but who you were before you started scrolling. Freedom doesn't start with quitting. It starts with noticing. It's not about throwing your phone across the room or deleting every app. It begins quietly, almost invisibly, in that split second when you realize you're scrolling without knowing why. Your thumb moves, your eyes flicker, your mind drifts. And suddenly you ask yourself, what am I even looking for? That's the first crack in the loop. Awareness. The smallest, most powerful act of rebellion in a world built on distraction. You don't have to break the habit in a dramatic, cinematic moment. You just have to see it for what it is. A loop that feeds itself. The algorithm gives, you take, it learns, and the cycle continues. Until one day you pause. Not long, just enough to feel the weight of silence underneath the noise. You tell yourself, put it down. A voice inside replies, just for a minute. It's not a command, it's a truce, a fragile peace between who you've become and who you want to be. The screen still glows, whispering your name through endless colors, pings, and previews. Your mind trembles with curiosity. What if someone replied? What if you missed something? That's the addiction's final defense, fear of absence. But absence is exactly what you need. Because the longer you stay in constant stimulation, the more silence feels unbearable. The loop thrives on your discomfort with stillness. So, when you finally set the phone down, the quiet feels almost alien. At first, your body resists. Your hand twitches toward the device like a reflex. The room feels too still, too empty. You can almost hear the phantom vibration. The ghost notification your brain invented just to lure you back. But this time, you don't reach for it. You breathe. You notice the light in the room. The sound of your own thoughts returning. It's strange, uncomfortable, yet grounding. For the first time in what feels like forever, you exist without being stimulated. The realization hits softly. This is what peace used to feel like. Before the noise, before the metrics, before every moment demanded validation. It's not dramatic, no fireworks, no grand awakening. Just presence. The kind of stillness that doesn't demand anything from you. The kind that reminds you that you were never supposed to live on a loop of reaction and refresh. As minutes pass, you start to see how deeply the loop had shaped your instincts. Every silence once felt like boredom. Now it feels like breathing. Every thought once interrupted by notifications now has space to finish itself. You begin to rediscover simple focus. Watching light shift across the wall, hearing your breath slow down, feeling your heartbeat sync with the calm. It's almost embarrassing how much beauty you missed, because your attention was always somewhere else. The turning point isn't marked by a loud victory. It's defined by the first moment of choice. You realize you can pick up the phone again, but you don't have to. The power isn't in quitting forever. It's in deciding when to engage and when to walk away. That choice, small as it seems, is freedom reclaimed in microseconds. You start to see how attention was always your currency. And now, for the first time, you're choosing where to spend it. The climax arrives not in noise, but in stillness. You sit there, eyes closed, no music, no feed, no incoming messages, just quiet. It's disorienting at first, then calming. The world doesn't collapse without your participation. The apps don't miss you. The algorithm forgets you for a moment. And that's the point, because for the first time you remember yourself. Freedom, it turns out, isn't a dramatic escape. It's a series of quiet refusals. Refusing to check, refusing to react, refusing to let your worth be measured in clicks. It's not about deleting everything. It's about redefining what deserves your attention. You glance at the phone again. It's still there, harmless now, waiting. The glow doesn't feel as magnetic. You pick it up, but this time you don't scroll. You set an intention. You open the camera and capture the light that made you stop earlier. No hashtags, no captions, just memory. In that simple act, the loop finally breaks. You didn't escape it by force. You transcended it by awareness. The silence that once felt unbearable now feels sacred. You realize this was never about rejecting technology. It was about reclaiming agency. The noise of the world will always call you back. The loops will always tempt you. But now you know how to pause. You've met the version of yourself that doesn't need constant noise to feel alive. And that version, quiet, present, aware, is the one that can finally live beyond the scroll. The light feels strange when you step out of the screen. For so long, you've lived in the glow of pixels, the rapid-fire flashes of notifications, the endless cascade of content designed to keep you scrolling. And now, standing in the real world, it's almost overwhelming. The colors are richer, the air feels heavier, and every sound is layered with texture you forgot existed. Your senses, dulled by habit, awaken slowly, like a body surfacing from deep water. You notice the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the subtle rustle of leaves, the distant laughter of strangers passing by. The world has always existed like this, vibrant and alive, but for months, years perhaps, it felt distant, filtered, mediated through a screen. Now every detail seems sharper, more profound. You inhale and realize how little you've actually breathed in ages. Each step forward feels intentional, deliberate. Each glance around reveals a richness that no feed could ever replicate. It's not easy at first. You feel a strange unease, like a muscle unused for too long. The silence is profound, not the quiet of an empty room, but the calm of uninterrupted thought. You feel almost exposed. Without the constant stream of digital distraction, your mind has nowhere to hide. Your thoughts, once scattered, begin to settle. They stretch and flex, filling spaces you didn't know were empty. In that emptiness, creativity begins to stir. Fragile at first, then more confident. Welcome back. That whispered notion, barely audible, might be your own. Or it might come from the world itself. Patient, waiting for your return. Every small detail reminds you that life is happening outside the app. The wind in the trees, the patterns of clouds, the sound of footsteps on concrete. Each one is a signal that you've stepped out of a trance. For the first time in a long while, you realize you can exist without constant stimulation. You can sit with boredom and not be anxious. You can observe without immediately reacting. Your mind feels alive again, unchained from algorithms and notifications. You notice thoughts you hadn't realized you'd lost. Ideas that rise naturally, not prompted by some viral trend. Memories surface easily, uncompressed and unfiltered. You smile at things that previously passed unnoticed. A bird landing on a branch, the pattern of sunlight across the pavement, the quiet patience of a passing stranger. These moments, small as they seem, feel monumental. They remind you of a version of yourself that wasn't performing, reacting, or seeking approval, just being. As you move through the day, interactions take on a new texture. Conversations feel richer, not abbreviated by habit or distraction. You listen fully, not half-present. Laughter comes easier, and even the quiet pauses between words feel meaningful. The world that once seemed overwhelming without a screen now feels welcoming, generous, alive. You begin to recognize the subtle rhythms of time and life, rhythms that a constant feed had once buried beneath layers of digital noise. This is the turning point. You understand now that silence and boredom aren't voids to be feared. They are gateways. In them, imagination flourishes, clarity returns, and the mind, free from endless stimulus, can finally breathe. You realize that the craving for constant entertainment was never about enjoyment. It was about avoidance. Avoiding your thoughts, your feelings, and the simple, profound texture of real life. And now, for the first time in a long while, you can meet yourself again. The climax unfolds quietly. You sit with your coffee, your notebook, or simply your own thoughts, and feel a profound sense of reclamation. Your attention, once fractured and scattered, now feels cohesive, capable. You can plan, imagine, create, not because someone or something prompted you, but because your own mind has returned. The colors are brighter, the sounds clearer, the life beneath the surface unmistakable. You have stepped out of the loop and reclaimed your focus. The world itself, nature, time, the people around you, becomes your companion in this rediscovery. You see beauty without needing validation, connection without needing likes, and accomplishment without tracking metrics. Each experience is direct, unmediated, and deeply satisfying. You begin to understand that the peace you feel is not just absence of distraction, but the presence of reality itself. And as the day stretches on, the temptation to return to old habits fades. You know that screens will still glow, notifications will still ping, and algorithms will still tempt you. But the power is no longer entirely theirs. You have tasted freedom in noticing, in pausing, in simply being present. You carry this awareness like a quiet flame, guiding your interactions, your choices, and your attention. If this story felt too real, if it made you pause, breathe, or reconsider, that is exactly the point. You've stepped back into life with intention. And that intention, small as it may seem, is where transformation begins. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories that help you reclaim your mind, one moment of awareness at a time.